How Pija Tabino, Pija Awama Tanse Gungamaheji Eyatae. Welcome. All right, buenos dias. My name is McCauley. I am a member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. I have a master's degree in music education, and I'm creating this video today. You see the title, and I have my notes so that I don't end up going off on a tangent, because I really feel that this is a super important topic. Culture bearers and music educators. I happen to be a music educator and a culture bearer. I am both. And these are the things that I wanted to address to the music education community. A little personal anecdote about myself. I entered into my master's degree program in 2010. At that time I was a band director on my reservation at the Pyramid Lake Junior Senior High School Band. I was in my third year, and they were getting ready to cut the program. I was only teaching as a substitute teacher, a teacher on substitute license with a BIE school, and I did not get my music ed degree, and my bachelor's degree ended up not finishing. So I enrolled in my first class and I needed to be a highly qualified educator, so I went to the university and said I need to get teacher certified. My advisor at the time, the lady who I sat down and spoke with, she said, why don't you just get a master's in music ed? She's like, you're so close, and you got accepted into the bachelor's program. She's like, why don't you just get your master's degree? I said, okay, I'll get my master's degree. So my first full class within my master's degree program was advanced elementary music methods. So I don't remember exactly at which point during the semester I had this revelation to myself, but at some point during the semester, I distinctly remember sitting there at the table, and there were only two other classmates, I believe. No, one. I was the only one taking this course at the time. And I thought to myself, after advanced elementary music methods, music education has got to change, because I couldn't remember my music education from my earlier years. All I remember, I grew up on the reservation. I remember learning my Paiute cultural dances taught by some elders and some other community members who were knowledgeable of the dancers. They came and they helped us. I remember hearing those songs, and I remember doing Christmas songs. I remember learning ABCs, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I remember one distinct song, Sarah Sponda. That's all I remember of my elementary music ed, other than my cultural dances. So when I took elementary music ed, my master's degree advanced, I was like, man, music education has got to change. And now I graduated in 2014, master's in music education, became an elementary music school teacher, because that's the place where they needed the most. And I took my student teaching in order to get my licensure. My mentor teacher for the elementary was a Kodaly based instructor. So in my advanced methods course, this is where I heard about Kodaly, Orff, Gordon, Dalcroze. And I believe just somewhere along the lines learning about those, I was like, this is all music education has to offer for music educators, you know. I thought they were very interesting concepts. To this day, I am not Kodaly certified, I am not Orff certified or Dalcroze, and I don't believe I need to be. And some of the things I'm going to speak to you of this unique position that I am in, I joined the website called Decolonizing Music Education. I was asked to join as an admin, and here's what I have noticed within the conversations within the past month, most notably about myself, is that I am a culture bearer who happens to be a music educator. So what does that mean? I am the person that these music educators, if you're a music educator, you're looking for authentic resources. You realize there's something wrong. Well, there's a lot of things wrong about a lot of the songs that have racist past, and then you need other repertoire to fill that in with. So then you want to look for culture bearers. Well, I happen to be a culture bearer who happens to be a music educator who understands our dilemma right now within music education. So I felt it's very important to share some of these things with you of the points of view of where I am coming from. So if you are a music educator and you are coming to me as a culture bearer, I'm not going to know if you're just dealing with culture bears off time, they don't know what Orff, Kodaly, Dalcroze, or Gordon is. But I want to make this point that I grew up on a reservation. I still live on a reservation. I know a lot of my cultural songs, and I'm always learning more. We have a language program that one of my relatives, when he came back to this area, he developed it, chose a written language a format to write it in, took classes from him back early in the 2004, gained knowledge about some of the cultural ways about how our language is structured, and doing this while I was an undergraduate at a university, in addition to learning about some things in music education at that time, and then going on to get my general studies degree. I've also traveled around the world exchanging cultural songs with other nations. So when you're talking to culture bears, and specifically myself, being that you've probably come to find this video from Decolonizing the Music, maybe it's a link from there, or you're a native person or a cultural person from my account on Facebook, and you're just wanting to know more about this. I grew up on a reservation. I still live there. I did not grow up in middle-class white society. I did, however, my high school I attended was at the time, right, mostly middle-income white people that I went with, and that's mostly who was in my band. So anyways, moving a little bit more on this topic of culture bears and music educators. The creative process of discovery and improv, as far as being involved in Orff, cultural songs that we have had within different cultures, and I'm not just being ethnocentric or cultural centric, talking about my own. I've learned many different styles, songs, dances, and I have many relationships with people from many different cultures worldwide. One of the things that we do not necessarily do as far as Orff, the creative process and discovery and improv and making up movements. Well, what you find within cultures whose songs have existed long before music education ever came along, whose songs continue and dances continue to exist without the aid of music education. But in this day and age, it is also needed to be shown in the classroom, because many of our cultural songs that we have do not have racist past, such as the American songs that we're finding, because America's history, if you read Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, the history of how this country was created is largely based on race, so therefore a lot of the American so-called folk songs are steeped in racism. But what you find with different cultures, and this is indigenous cultures around the world, cultural bears from different cultures, is that our music, within my own culture that I've heard, a lot of it is not directed at demeaning other cultures. Instead, it celebrates the land, it celebrates who we are as a people. It is our connection to the land. Geographically, it is our connection to others and welcoming songs of other people. That's largely what we find. And there are sacred songs. Those are not songs that people like a culture bear like myself, we are not at liberty to give you those songs, and we're not going to give you those songs. We're knowledgeable enough now these days. There's a lot of song makers, a lot of culture bears who have the I guess I didn't think of myself as a culture bear or them so much as, here's the people who practice the music within the culture. Here's the people who are continuing it, right? So they're culture bears, and so am I. One other thing that it's great that music educators, you are seeking other resources, you are seeking lists, you are seeking out context. Well, where can I get authentic music? Where can I get it? Now. I kind of feel like this idea of now is skipping over the process, that if you have not lived your life as a cultural person meaning when I first meet people, hi, my name is McCauley. I'm a member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. I'm Washoe, Shoshone, Paiute, and Quinault. This is a very common introduction that when I meet people, I just came back from the Zuma convention. It was at the end of July. When I meet people there, we all ask like, hey, hi, where are you from? And then they're saying, well, I'm from the Philippines originally, but I live in the Bay Area. Or they say something like, your jewelry is so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Like, where does that come from? And then I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually Native American, and this is where it comes from. They're like, oh, wow, I've never been out there. I don't know anything about your culture, but that's awesome that we're meeting. There's a protocol that needs to be paid attention to. And when you're asking as a music educator, you need these songs, you want them, you need them now, you know, what's the best way, what's the most authentic way, what's the how-to, the urgency within those statements to a culture bearer is not very. We want to talk about respect of other cultures, but this is like a symbiotic relationship. I tell you where I'm from, you tell me where you're from, right? The whys behind what you're doing, the majority of the time, like when I've been around other cultures, so say we're doing a cultural exchange, or my first time going to Israel as an example, there were Maori there from New Zealand, Hawaiians from Hawaii, Irish from Ireland, and then we represented both, we call it Turtle Island for North America, South America, and there were Canadian natives and Native Americans. Therefore, our collective term, we're just indigenous or First Nations representing Turtle Island. In our interactions between each other, because we had the songs, we had the dances, they share with us, we share with them. At no time during any of these interactions there's no music being passed around, but we are saying, well, what we were saying in our language is this. Here's what this song means. There's no, we use this song for gatherings, for welcoming you, but nobody has really known what the chants mean when we open it up. There is an explicit why, and why were they singing songs? So when myself as a culture bearer, or especially as myself as an educator, right now, and knowing that music education needs to change, of knowing where I've gained all my resources throughout my lifetime, knowing that this process needs to be integrated into every part of your life, I will ask questions, and there are protocols to learning songs from other cultures, and I don't want to be too concerned with how genuine you are, why you want to learn the song, but I am concerned about how you would like, how educators, it seems, it's recommended, highly recommended, that you spend time with the culture, learning about it. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there of culture bearers explaining about their songs in their areas. So spending time knowing where the song happens in context. Best thing you could ever do is be there when a certain song happens in a context. And if you keep revisiting whatever culture it is that you would like, because there's a possibility here in this country you can visit as many cultures as you choose to on an ongoing basis. This does not mean flying out of the country. This does not mean traveling across the country. This could be in your very community. You know, what's the effort that's been made? Who are the main key players? How are you integrating yourself to understand and form these relationships? And we get a lot of comments from educators saying, I work in a very diverse school. How is it that I go about maintaining and getting these things? Well, myself as a culture bearer, as a music educator, as someone, I am not licensed in Orff, I am not licensed in Kodaly, I am not licensed in these things, because from the very age of 8, I have been sharing my culture with other people. And in order, the knowledge of the dances and the songs that I continue to come in contact with people from other cultures, the contact that you have over and over, and you form relationships with people from other cultures, you hear the same songs over and over, so you kind of develop an ear for, wow, this song keeps playing in this culture, it must mean a lot to them. You develop skills on knowing how to identify who's the culture bearer, who really knows, and then you develop also a skill on protocol, on when and how to ask for songs, and whether or not the relationship between you and that person has been established. They can say, okay, I'll give you this song, or no, I don't want you to have this song, or I really appreciate you coming to my event, how about you come to this event? Or people really, culture bearers really appreciate when you want to learn more about the song and when it came from. So while we're in this process of decolonization, right, This protocol that I'm telling you right now, this is not mentioned in any music education course. This is not mentioned in Orff. This is not mentioned in Kodaly. Usually the trainer for those things is like, well, I learned this song from this group of people. Let me tell you about it. And then sometimes it could still be done authentically, but there has to be an ongoing relationship in order to trust that trainer. But yourself as an individual, living a lifetime going in and out of different cultures. I also was reading some comments. One woman just said, well, I have 90 plus cultures to learn about. And I just, my initial thought is, okay, as a culture bearer who knows many different cultures and interacts with people all my life on a cultural basis with people, getting to know them, where they're from, letting them know about mine, letting them know about theirs. I started writing a list of how many cultures off the top of my head. Last night when I was really tired that I know just off the top of my head, I was able to come up with 89. But again, this is coming from, I'm a music educator, but I grew up very different. I did not grow up in the middle class, middle class income. My culture was not largely based solely on what Hollywood puts out. I grew up on my Indian reservation, seeing many different nations. When I went to high school, I became friends with people who were black, and I listened to their stories. I had no preconceived notions that my race was better than anybody else's. So when I came in contact with people, they were very curious about me. They had a lot of, when they're like, oh, you're Native, can you teach us cuss words in your language? I'm like, no. First of all, we don't have those necessarily in our language, right? So being able to understand and learn from other cultures has to start somewhere. And if you're an adult just now getting to this, it's going to take some time, right? And you have to relearn history about and deal with your perceptions of people who are from other cultures. So one of the perceptions I'm starting to see is like, okay, well, you want authentic resources. We can't just rely on people of color, of their voices, of what they tell us. Well, if you want an educational response from everything, you want a dissertation, you want the history laid out for you in an academic way, you got to go back to the history and understand that this is probably the first time in history to where, as a Native American person, who has a master's degree, I need to start writing primary sources about our language, because what you're going to find in ethnomusicology, really early ethnomusicology or anthropology, I'm going to go ahead and just go out and go back to Native American music here in this country. A lot of those publications point to Native Americans being, their beats were simple. They're simple. Or these might have been the beginning songs of the caveman because they're just so simple. Now that type of framework of working off of those primary sources, you can't work off of those primary sources because of the history of the United States and the eugenics and the studies of the scientists that at the time the United States became a country and throughout the time of country, they have been putting out studies and representations and writing the history books, all to just say that there's white superiority over all the other nationalities. So we have to work through that, relearn the history of the area of where you're from. Don't count on your American history doing it for you. There are tons of songs out there from other cultures. However, those other cultures, my culture, Native American, Pyramid Lake Paiute, any other culture in the United States have not had the same opportunities to be published and taken seriously as the way that we do have, most of our songs now that we're finding that are racist. So along the lines of becoming a cultural person, becoming a more culturally relevant educator, becoming decolonized, I like to use the word for myself, a cultural person. I do not spend a lot of time anymore in mostly white spaces because I do not feel that it is safe. And when I do speak up occasionally on, okay, well, maybe when I have asked educators, sometimes they've shared a song, say they're like, I got this song is from the Sioux tribe. I'm like, well, who gave you that song? They're like, what? Well, who gave you that song? How did you come about it? And why do you want to teach it? Those questions have tended to be triggering questions. So we're all being a culture bearer and being both a music educator, understanding that culture bearers, we understand our histories. We understand our histories of how this country came to be, how our tribe became to be, how our people became to be, and why our reservations are so, how they became. We know that history, and so that's also something that we appreciate. And music educators, when you just decide that you want to use songs from other cultures, you need to know where these songs came from. You need to know how historically, and we need, say you, but we all need to continue to learn about the history, to unlearn a lot of things that history leaves out. So I've been on this process of, I learned the history of my tribe when I was 19 years old. That's almost 20 years ago. And since that time, I've been able to travel around the world. And usually when I traveled with a group that did reconciliation ceremonies through cultural exchanges, meaning that they would say, here's the history of what happened in this country on this site. Here's what has led to, we're sorry that your songs were, that you didn't feel free to express yourself songs. I'm talking about Native American songs. We're sorry. And there are some people that we would call them, they're working towards the better good or doing anti-racist work. Again, going back to Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, if you're doing something about it, righting a wrong, trying to bring us down to both being equitable, acknowledging each other, that is how these exchanges also of songs are going to make their way into the classroom. And so I really wanted to just bring up the point for myself. If you see comments from me, my name's Michelle McCauley, you see comments from me, and when I ask a lot of questions, but I grew up on the reservation. I am a culture bearer, and at the same time, I am also a music educator. And when I choose to teach music education in the classrooms, I'm also a Zumba instructor, so I have access and I have learned from people all over the world. Zumba does a great job of finding people who are experts on knowledge of dance from their respective countries, bringing us all together at the Zumba convention. I continually go all the time, and we get firsthand knowledge from people from their countries, always doing that work. Being a culture bearer and a music educator myself, I am pleased to see that people are interested in doing this work. However, there are protocols that are in place, and living a lifetime of being a cultural person myself, there's a respect that I have towards every single nation of every single culture that I've been in. I'm very proud to be Pyramid Lake Paiute. I know a little bit about Washoe, a little bit about Shoshone, a little bit about Quinault. I value people. I value where they come from. And when I became an elementary music teacher within my own classroom, I take a look at who's there. I know how to validate your students, because later on down the line, as a culture bearer myself, and having that, when these students go to higher education and they need to identify, and they want to feel strong about their identity, and they need to be validated within their identity, they need songs and dances from their culture to have some of that identity. And these are songs also that aren't just because it's fun, music for music's sake. It makes life more beautiful. Cultural music serves as an identity that'll span a lifetime. The Shoshone flag song that I teach to kids, that I got permission to teach to kids, that song can be sung in honor of any veterans during Veterans Day at any time, by any children, as long as they know the background. I received permission to teach that. That song lives on past the classroom. Kodaly did not come up with this song. Orff has nothing to do with this song. Dalcroze has nothing to do with the life of a lot of culture songs. And so while those are good things to kind of base your pedagogy off of, to kind of get a start, they are not fully etched in what we're trying to do now to change music education. Cultural music within the classroom is going to be used for a lifetime, right? So for myself, also choosing to teach Las Mañanitas. Well, in my area, if we have a whole lot of Mexican students, if like my daughter goes to a Mexican birthday, they're not going to be, they may sing Cumpleaños a ti, right? It may be in Spanish, but more than likely, if a lot of the family still visits Mexico, they're going to sing Estas son las mañanitas que canta. So really important to follow a protocol, genuinely want an interest in people, understand yours. And again, my questions on the website or whenever I answer, you are coming from why, you want a song. but I can tell that the other work, the respect, the knowledge, if this is going to be a one-way relationship, then I'm not going to feel comfortable sharing with you, sharing my songs. And if you're a music entity, if you're a corporation and you want Native songs because you found out that your songs that you were using within your own company weren't even Native and they were highly racist, right? There needs to be a respect there, and the buying of our songs and all of that is not is something that's going to be kind of new. But every single song that is worth using in the classroom today per Native American or whatever tribe is in your area, many of the song makers, we are alive. There's songs on YouTube, and we're ready to help. So keep that in mind. Culture bearer and a music educator. It is the same thing. Is outlasted, or I am a culture bearer who happens to be a music educator. I am not licensed in Orff, Kodaly, Dalcroze, Gordon, or anything else, because I know the power of my cultural identity, of what I was taught in my childhood, how it continues to live on. And I've been invited into so many other different cultures because they work the same way. So strive to look out for protocols and be a cultural person first. Because once you start doing that and relearning history, this how to give me a list of songs, you don't ask those questions, right? You function very differently in the world. But Pijat, thank you for listening. Comment below my video. I will try as best I can to message you if you find something compelling in what I said. Definitely mentioned before, feel free to share this video with other music educators, other educators. If you are a Native person and you are watching this, you watched the whole thing, Pijat again, go ahead and put down in the comments maybe your experience with music education, or how you learned your cultural songs, about your protocols that you may have. But for the most part, there's always a symbiotic, a two-way thing taking place when you want to learn about other cultures. The best thing to do is to spend time with people and develop these relationships, and have no preconceived notion of anybody's one right way, right? And that's going to take some time. So things take time. I have a whole lifetime of being a cultural person, and some of you may be just embarking on this journey right now, and I applaud you for that. So Pijat, I'll see you soon. Drop some comments, and yes, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Pijat.